Yeah, so Kevin, how are you?
Yeah, I'm doing good. It's like Bee Central around here lately. Like there's so much going on.
Yeah.
I listened to your Michael Bush episode. That was great.
Oh,
It's
good, good.
so timely, the whole thing that he had about the feral bees. Because I've been talking with Jason Bruns, exchanging emails. Actually, I've been reading. I haven't had a chance to reply to him, but uh, Michael Bush is completely aligned with what Jason is saying, right? The feral
Yeah,
bees specifically the bacteria that they don't get nuked when people keep treating them. Remember his
Yeah.
commentary on that? Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
You know, people are doing
We,
formic acid and they're doing, uh, by the way, quick strips, formic acid, he said, not tetracycline. I forget what the product name is. Terramycin. And people are giving fumidol, and they're wrecking the ecosystem of the bee. And all the bees
Yeah.
that are feral don't have that burden, you know? So from that perspective, they're healthier, and they can deal with the varroa. So that was an interesting commentary, and aligned with a lot of people think, you know, Charlie Ilsley, you remember him from my podcast, sent me something recently about how to go find feral bees, and it's a long article that explains that. And I've seen beelining from Tom Seeley, and I'm really
yeah.
interested to my you'll hear in my next episode for my podcast, which I'm going to record this weekend, that my 2015 objective is to go and figure out how to find feral bees in New Jersey, which nobody
Okay.
seems to think exists. So,
Oh, okay. Yeah, because I've seen them. They have like a little wooden box, with two compartments. Have you seen those? And you put the bees inside them, and then you just open them up. You put a bit of comb at the bottom. I'll see if I can dig out a video about it, how to do it. It's quite interesting. And this
when I
guy
went
comes along and he lets one out, and then he just watches it, and then he keeps following it.
yeah, when I went to Hershey, Tom Seeley went through the whole process of how to do it, and I filmed it, so I can go back and watch it. I don't want to release it because I didn't have permission to release it to the public, but I mean, he gives talks on this all the time, and there's books you can buy on beelining. And what he
Yeah.
did was he walked us away from the hives, and then he figured out how to track the bees, how long it took them to return, and did the math. And it was a really neat little session he went through.
Yeah. Yeah, we've done something similar with wasps. You can find wasps in the same way.
So you guys have been having problems with wasps, right, in your hives? Isn't that what I
Yeah, a
heard?
lot of
Awful.
they've been robbing a lot of the hives out, and yeah, trying to find their nest is quite hard on our section because it's all very thick bush. But yeah, but
The
you can.
We are struggling with the hives, the whole apiary, and maybe a bit of neglect on my part because I've been so busy doing the business side of things and helping people look after their hives.
yeah.
Plus the fact that the season went on so long, and the treatments did a bit late, and then the wasps have been really like plague proportions this year, and they already have wiped out one hive that was really thriving. So I'm very upset at the end of this season, and I'm not sure what's going to survive for the new season. So I'm not really sure what to do about it.
You're in late
Yeah.
fall there or early winter? Where are you?
Yeah, winter's started here.
Started about 2 weeks
1st of
ago.
June.
Yeah.
So you're in what's the average temperature for you during the day?
At the moment, we've had everything from 4 degrees, and then up to 7 in the mornings, and then during the day it's been quite hot, about 18 degrees for us. So the bees have been out, and the wasps are building up really heavily at the moment. Lots of queen wasps we're finding around the property, and we're killing off as much as we can. But it's so wet as well. We sort of have had really heavy rains, and we just had a storm a few days ago. So we're still trying to work through getting the other hives from the other apiary, because we've lost a few there too, about 3.
Yeah. Tonight we're going to bring
4 degrees Celsius, right, which is around 40 degrees Fahrenheit, and the bees are still flying?
Yeah.
Oh, not at 4, but they start flying about 12, eh?
Yeah.
12 or 13.
Depends, because they get the sun where the apiary is fairly early on, so about 9 o'clock they'll all be hit by the sun on the hives. So, and there's a lot of robbing going on as well. So it seems like everything's happening at once, and it's hard to manage it.
Yeah, and we've just yesterday we spent all day cleaning up the apiary to make some space for 7 new hives that we've got to go and move from another apiary, because they've sold the farm, so we've got to go and move these bees off there to our place. So,
are the do you have hive entrance guards? Can they defend when you close down the entrance?
We have closed them all down, and we've got robbing screens on them as well. On most of them. Yeah,
we've reduced the entrances down to about 2 bee spaces.
Yeah.
So that has helped, but the robbing is almost frenetic? They're just crazy. Yeah. And so I don't know what we're going to end up with after winter. To be honest, we're going to do some feeding, which Michael Bush says can. The clusters are quite small. They've just reduced right down, and they seem to be staying in the hive a lot longer than they have done before.
Yeah. Well, that's the problem, isn't it? Because they may not be able to eat that food, I suppose.
Yeah, because we didn't have where we are. We didn't have a very good honey flow, and we keep all the honey on the hives, but there wasn't a lot there. And every time we had some sunny weather, then it would rain heavily, so that all the pollen and nectar was just washed away.
Yeah, that's a bummer.
Yeah, so
you're trying to protect against these wasps. I know Bob Kloss, who does my podcast with me sometimes, he created a robbing screen where there's a screen in the front, and the bees exit the hive and go out through the top and out, but the robbing can't get through. They have to land and walk down in, and it defends it. So it's a different entrance. I mean, some of the reducing the entrance to a small little hole works, but they could still get through that in a kamikaze fashion. But this other way, they have to literally land and walk down in, and it confuses them. The bees coming out of the hive can figure out how to do it, right?
Yeah, what I've done is we've done a mesh in front of the entrance, and we've reduced the entrances down, and then that's the first defense. Then I've got a mesh guard in front of that. So yes, they do have to walk up about 4 or 5 inches to go out. So we've got some of
you out there with a badminton racket swatting at the wasps. Isn't that what I heard?
I used that one, but the battery didn't last very long, and the wasp sort of like fell over, and then they sort of twitched a bit, and then they got up and flew away. They're just like, oh my god.
Oh, and you were vacuuming them as well, weren't you?
I used a vacuum cleaner.
Oh, that's pretty funny.
That was Gary told me I could probably electrocute myself, but I thought, well, I got about 1,000 wasps. It was just incredible.
Yeah, and we've been doing a lot of tests with traps and stuff, and trying to work out the best bait for them. And we've kind
Yeah.
of yeah, trying different things, and apple juice, and what else we try? Beer and jam, that works really well.
Beer and jam was about the best one.
Yeah,
We're doing one at the moment that smells awful. It's a liver one.
chicken liver.
It's catching a lot of flies, but
Yeah,
not many wasps.
I've invented the ultimate fly catcher,
Yeah.
but I've only caught like 3 wasps in it. So
And you draw them all to your property, which is even better. from miles, right?
But,
that's it. Yeah, it's true.
yeah.
Oh, I think the best defense is to find their nests, eh? So
Yeah.
if you can learn beelining and it's possible to do,
Find the wasp.
Yeah.
yeah. Because what you do is you get it. I was doing it the other day. I was getting a like a Tupperware container or a plastic container with jam in it, and I was putting it out, and they were all coming to get it. The wasps were coming to get it. Then you just seal it up, walk away, walk somewhere else, and let them out, and they all fly straight to their nest. So you just keep doing that all day long, and you just get a compass and point it to where they're going, so try and follow the line. But it's very hard in our bush because it's New Zealand bush is very thick. It's like the Amazonian jungle, It's really horrific.
And plus, we've got quite a few hills where we are. We've got sort of the area around the house, which is quite flat, but then we've got our house is down from the roadway, and then where the house is, then it goes back down into the valley.
Yeah.
So it's not all flat and level as well. So
Yeah, and it's thick manuka trees and stuff, and yeah, so you need a machete. It's horrendous.
I just don't know what we'll end up with. I think that's my biggest concern.
I guess
Yeah.
as long as you come out with something, and then you can do some splits and recover.
Yeah, you're right.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're hoping we've got some split.
How was your swarm season this year? Did you catch any swarms?
Yeah, hundreds.
Yeah, we got a lot of swarms.
Must be 15 probably.
Yeah, we gave away a lot of swarms because
We ran out of gear.
we ran out of boxes. It's
Yeah.
been such a long season this year. Yeah. So, and then we sold a lot of our beginner kits. That was around December. They all went, and then we had some new season swarm queens that we had about 4 of them, and we sold them a bit later on. So that was about April, eh?
Yeah.
About April they went, and they're all doing really well at everybody else's apiary, but ours are really getting targeted.
That's the way it works, right?
Yeah,
Oh,
I know. We try. Yeah, it's good, but we're helping all the beginners start up, and that's awesome.
Yeah.
But we're
I've
sort
always
of running.
made like 3 to 5 hives in the yard, and I'm going to 10. I was telling you before the video
Yes.
came online here and I've been out in the garage all day building equipment, painting boxes, doing things. I have this situation where I have one box with a hive in it, and I want to switch it to a different box, but I have to create the box, take it out there, and switch it all over so I can bring that box in and rehabilitate it. Because some of my boxes need to be painted, and so I'm working out this whole orchestration of system for equipment. So I so can identify with the whole equipment thing that you're talking about.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, did you raise those 3 queens from your existing stock, or did you get them brought in?
I bought three queens from a local provider here. There's a queen breeder in the United States. Her name is Sue Kobe, and the provider that I have has ability to get some queens from her. She's pretty internationally renowned, and I haven't had carnelian bees in quite a while, and I wanted to get some, and I was able to get 3 queens. They picked them up yesterday, and I'm going to install them tomorrow.
Oh,
So how
okay.
will you do that process? Can you take us through that process?
What I'm going to do is go in my hives, and I'm going to pull out, like I'm doing a split, but make sure the
Okay.
queen stays in the mother hive. So I'll pull a frame of brood, half capped, half open would be ideal. A frame of pollen and nectar, capped honey if it's there, and an empty frame. And then I'll put a foundation frame in, and then I'll put the queen in with that. I'm going to attach her to the frame just like you would starting a package, so to speak, and let them get acclimated to her. And then I'll go pull
Yeah.
the cork and let them chew through the candy to release her.
Okay.
Yeah. And I'll
Okay. So
suspend
you.
her from the cage. I won't put her down on the ground.
Okay.
Yeah.
By that. So some people take the queen cage and they put it on the floor of the hive, and that's not a good idea. You should be suspending it from one of the frames. I use a rubber
Yeah.
band all the way through, or sometimes I cut a hole. It depends on which frame it is, you know.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Or sometimes I actually pushed into the comb. You know,
Yeah,
leave the
cut a
bottom
hole
at the.
notch and push the cage in.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that works really well. And just
Oh,
hope
great.
they.
They'll
I
be
was
fine if you.
working on my hives. I have 4 hives that came from Charlie Ilsley. I was able to work with him and get some splits and some walkaway splits, right? So 2 of the walkaway splits I got from him, one had a queen and one raised their own queen. And the other one were 4-frame splits. So I pulled 4 frames out of his hives. He was doing swarm prevention. I brought all kinds of equipment, and we swapped empty built-out comb for his bees, and it relieved the congestion and pressure in his hives. My
Yeah.
4 frames that I pulled out of his hives and put out there, it took them 3 weeks to raise a queen or longer. And I was being patient. I could see the frames prepped for a queen, but waiting, and then I just given up and said, well, I'll use these 3 queens and put them in there, and I went back last Saturday and looked through all the hives, and they were all queen rate. So I was really happy about that.
Yeah.
That's
I
awesome.
think that's one of the things that I try to teach our beginners is that if you're raising queens, you're asking the hive to do that themselves, and you're waiting for that. You have to wait about 5 weeks, and a queen rearer that is well known in Auckland, he waits. He reckons it's about 41 days before you actually know that that queen is absolutely queen right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
That was
it was 5 weeks. That's
yeah.
about right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was being patient, but I was getting to the point where I was on watch, right? If it had gone another week, I would have installed a queen in there. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It is with bees, you know, sometimes you have to trust their process, and you know, we as humans, we always want things to happen quite quickly, and we want proof of it, and we keep interrupting them, and
Yeah.
that can spoil the whole process. So I struggled with that myself, the patience of doing a split and waiting for the queen to arrive.
Well, I made a comment the other day about someone was asking on a forum about their queen, and they were going in every few days to check what the queen cells were doing, and I went, you can't do that because they'll just sometimes they actually reject the queen if they keep getting interrupted all the time, you know. And so I told them to just leave it for 5 weeks.
It's interesting what Michael Bush was saying about the whole human interference in the climate or the actual hive dynamics as such. And you know, if you're going in there constantly, the bees don't even get a chance to recover from that interference. And yeah, it's like putting all those chemicals in. Yes, you've changed the whole ecology of the hive, and we have had beginner beekeepers that constantly go in the hive, and then they wonder why their bees left. Yeah, because they're interfering.
Yeah, I listened to your podcast with him, and I saw Michael 2 years ago. I think it was about 2 years ago now, and that really resonated with me. His ecology, and I've also heard Ross Conrad talk about some of that also about the bacteria in the hive, and you know, you may or may not have seen some of the videos that we shoot at our mentoring hives. We're very intrusive to them, but you have to show people. You have to show people
Yeah,
what eggs look like and whatever. But you know, we always tell them that when you're in your hive, as soon as you open it, you're changing the heat, you're changing the infrastructure, the moisture, all of that in there. And if you're in your hives all the time, I feel like I've been intrusive in the number of times I've been in my hives this year, but I'm just trying to make sure I keep pace and know what the heck is going on, because you start with 4 frames and you got to figure out when they get to that first box, and then you got to put the next box on top. And I had um, I had put some scabby frames in there, you know, some really evil beekeeping. It's on video for posterity if you want to go look at the YouTube channel. But you know, I've since subsequently gone back and made notes and fixed all that stuff. And yeah, you know, it's one of those things where I'll be happy to get to a point where I could just set them and let them be and have them do their own thing, you know.
yeah. I
Yeah,
think that's what's sort of missing with the modern beekeeping is that you know the older beekeepers we've talked to who had hives before Varroa said that they could basically just leave them over the whole 3 months of winter, the heavy parts of winter, and you know we just can't do that anymore. And in New
yeah,
Zealand, we've constantly got brood, so we're constantly under threat from Varroa.
Yeah.
yeah. I think even in summer, I think a good medium is to inspect once a month. You know,
Yeah.
I even think every 2 weeks is too much sometimes.
I think that's true, right? That the rule of thumb is just once a month, and even then, you really don't even have to pull frames. You could just crack the box, tilt it up, look underneath, see what it is, and put it back down. You generally can
Yeah,
see what's going on, and if you have evidence of brood, or you know pull one frame in the middle and you see brood, you don't need to see anything else. Just look at the
no,
pattern and you're done with it.
yeah,
One of the things that like Gary's built and designed the kiwimana mesh board, and what that enables us to do is that because it's got a removable inspection board, is that we can go anytime and not have to open the hive at all and just pull out the inspection board and see what is going on basically from a non-invasive perspective, and you will see the natural mite falls and everything that goes on. You can see evidence of robbing. So that's one of the ways that if you're happy with your bees and you do decide that once a month is enough, then that's another way to monitor without opening the hive. So that
yeah,
helps the bees as well. But a lot of the beginners, because they're learning, they will be opening the hive every 2 weeks.
yeah. Because it's exciting, isn't it?
Yeah, and it's
They want to get
usually
in there.
through the peak of summer, so hopefully it isn't too destructive.
Yeah, and I think when you've got over 30 hives, it's hard to do them every 2 weeks.
Oh,
You know,
I'm so
it's
That's the
almost
struggling.
talk to the commercial guys or people that have a good number of hives. They just crack them
yeah,
open, and the bees inside, is it this, that, or whatever, and then away they go. They look at the entrance.
yeah.
They don't get crazy with this.
I'm not going to
I,
say there's 25 mites in here.
yeah, I mean, you
They
might
just
have heard Bob and I talk about my goal this year is 10 hives, and I have a bunch of different form factors which I'm trying out. But the key thing that I'm looking for is I'm going to also build. We'll tell Sharon. I'm also going to build a yard somewhere and just put traditional Langstroth hives somewhere, right? And just leave them
Yeah,
be. But the ones in my yard will be to play and, you know, to rebuild if I lose hives or do whatever. But my goal is to do some 3 deeps this year. You've heard all the
okay.
commentary, right? I'm going to get to 3 deeps, and we've had a great spring. If you ask around, at least in New Jersey, I was talking to the state apiarist on Tuesday night, and he told me this is the best spring that they've seen in 10 years in New Jersey. And one of our veteran beekeepers was telling Sharon yesterday when we picked up those queens that he said the same thing. This is the best honey flow that we've seen in a long time, nectar flow.
It'd be interesting to see how long your season goes on, because ours was going on right till the end of March. And a lot of the honey that wasn't initially collected was starting to be, the bees were collecting it towards the end of March. So our season went on quite long.
And it started quite early too.
Yeah, and we had swarms. I mean, we've caught swarms before and maybe had 2 queens, but some of the swarms we caught this year had 4 or 5 virgin queens inside the swarm. So we put them in a box without realizing. Next thing you know, a couple of days, they swarmed again, and then we'd catch that one, and then we had more queens.
Yeah.
So it was just crazy. So I wonder really if you guys are going to have the same sort of thing going on.
Hopefully.
We had a really late winter. Late. It was cold, 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 cold. Then all of a sudden spring came. And I think what happened is the plants stayed dormant, 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 dormant. Then boom, they just went. And that's why we've had such a good spring, you know?
Yeah.
Do you guys get a lot of rain where you are?
It's been perfect. It rains every couple days. It's a nice soaking shower. And then we have a good run of 70-degree days. So this has been the perfect weather pattern since about March.
Okay.
Probably explains why we're having such a good spring, you know.
Yeah, no, we've been following your tweets, Kevin, about every time you get a bee sting, and I think I've worked out the problem.
What is it?
Because I've been watching your videos, and you're not wearing a veil, Kevin. So we'll have to send you one over.
A responsible beekeeper wears a veil, right? That's what Bob and I always joke about.
Yeah. Oh, I was
out there in shorts the other day. Somebody at work was watching one of my videos, and I was out there. I had a veil on, but I'm wearing T-shirt and shorts, working the bees, and they were aghast.
Yeah.
Yeah. Often you can go out to the apiary and have a look in the hive without putting anything, without having a veil on and everything, and people do get a bit shocked. I used to do that early on, but now I won't do it. I'll always have something over my face. That's the bottom line now.
I don't the face either.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's really bad when you wear glasses, because they sometimes go behind your glasses and they freak out and they sting you in the eye and stuff. I've had that happen.
Yeah, he got elephant nose one time from being stung on the nose.
I've had my eyes swollen shut. I've had my ears. Yeah. I know. I went out last week and I said, I'm just going to go out and I'm going to put some honey supers on these boxes. And I brought 2 boxes out, and I said, I'll just crack the inner cover off. It's middle of the day, won't be any problem. I cracked that. I took the top cover off, no smoke. I cracked that inner cover. As soon as I looked, boom, I got it. I was like, it chased me back to the house. And I put a veil on, and I lit my smoker, and I went back, and I said, I don't know.
True.
How long have I been doing this? I don't know better. But, you try to take those shortcuts. And the day before, I worked the bees, and I didn't hardly need any smoke whatsoever. So I said, well, what's different from yesterday? They want to sting me.
Probably the weather really affects them, eh?
Yeah.
The pressure and stuff, that really affects them.
Yeah, we've had some beginners that, I go and work their hives, and there was one that had been, not inspected for a really long time, and they're really aggressive, a really aggressive hive.
Oh,
and
yeah, I know
over the season, the bees are becoming less aggressive and more open to, inspections and everything, whereas in the beginning you just walked up to them and they just targeted you, and you knew you were going to get it. And then other times when the weather, like when I'd go there, there was a storm coming and they were really unhappy about the hive being open. So
Yeah, I did those bees too, and I was like 20, 30 meters away from the hive, putting my suit on, and they were going at me right then before I even started.
They're much better now.
That's
I
not
think
a good
because
sign, is it? When you're standing away from the hives and all of a sudden they start inspecting you and you're like, oh, this isn't going to be good.
It's not going to end well.
They know you're a them.
But I think those were ones that they requeened themselves, didn't they? Because that's why we got called to that house, because they'd swarmed into the roof.
Yeah.
So they'd actually they would have requeened themselves. So it would have been a new queen. That's why she's probably getting calmer. But isn't it funny that an aggressive queen can raise nice queens? They'd be more aggressive, wouldn't you?
Yeah, it's about who they hang out with, right? Not so much their personality. I know some women raise some nice kids. I'm going to be for that.
You're going to start the battle of the
nicest little children.
Yeah, I've seen. Yeah, that's true actually, because it takes two to raise a baby, doesn't it?
Shame on me. I'm never that way. I couldn't resist. Couldn't resist.
Oh no!
I have a question for you guys that your listeners want to know. Who were those two people behind you on the wall? Behind you.
It's a band.
That's Metallica.
That's Metallica? Okay.
Yeah. That's the guitarist and the singer. Yeah, no. Big
for me, so I just see some guy with glasses having a scowl on his face.
Yeah, that's Metallica. They're trying to look like heavy metalers, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, that's Metallica, but they've just got a bit of camouflage in front of them.
They got a flower in front of them. It's the flower power version. Yeah. Oh yeah, we like.
You guys are at 40, 49 or 50 for podcasts? Do I have that right?
Episode 50 is right here.
There you go. You guys are going to catch and pass me. How is that possible? You're like a machine, you two.
Diligent.
Gary's perseverance.
Oh, we're having a break for about a month, so you'll be able to catch up.
Is that right? Your Facebook posts and stuff from your blog or whatever, I'm just amazed at how much stuff you find and you put out. And we follow it all the time. And I will say for all your listeners, thank you. It's great, all the stuff you put through. And sometimes I'm mad as hell that you find the stuff first.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, just.
He's very good at research and sharing that information. Yeah, absolutely.
We spend a lot of time. What's that? We don't sleep. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, you don't sleep. I think you're up 24 hours a day or something. I don't know how you find all this.
Constantly looking for new articles.
I won't say anything about the sleeping on the couch while we're watching a movie.
Yeah.
As soon as I stop, Kevin, it's all over. It's sleeping.
It's just almost like a switch. I've done everything now.
She can enjoy every movie like it's brand new because she falls asleep in the middle of it and she never figures out. Like, have you ever seen this movie? Yes. We've watched this movie. I don't remember it. So Gary has that syndrome, right?
I'm the same. I never know how movies end. Never. I've watched the beginning of some movies about 20 times. So, yeah. Oh, it's all fun. Oh, thanks, Kevin, for those comments. That's awesome.
We do work hard. We try to share a lot of our experiences with people, whether they be good or bad. And it's when I teach my students, I say, do as I say, don't do as I do.
Yeah.
Because sometimes they're going to be okay with their 1 or 2 hives, but we found this season because we had such a big, queens being raised by the hives, we had so much to deal with, and doing the beekeeper services as well. We have to find a good balance now. So we have to review that over our break now and see how we want to proceed going forward. So that's going to be a tough one.
Yeah, I think we're going to reduce our numbers.
We've been able to follow your journey, right? And here you start your business, and you have a couple ideas, and now all of a sudden you're going to town, and sounds like it's really taken off, which is great for you guys. And yeah, the beekeeping kind of becomes, now you got to add that on top of it, and I can imagine you got the right thing though, right? You just keep planning and figuring out how you make efficiency so that you can do more with whatever available time you have. And
That's it.
Everyone's got the same amount of time, eh? So it's just making the best use of your time. So
yeah, and I think that over our years of doing beekeeping, we've had good seasons and bad seasons, and I think that what I've learnt through this season is that you can't predict any season. You just can't. You have to be prepared, have all your gear, but the actual weather and everything is totally out of your control, and you have to respond, during that season, and hopefully have all your gear in place. So yeah. Maybe less is more.
How long have you guys been at this? When did you start?
5 seasons now.
Oh, it's about five seasons ago. So yeah. I think it's 2001 or 2 or.
No, we started keeping bees when we got back to New Zealand after staying in England.
I can tell you exactly, Kevin, because if you go to our blog and look up archives, you'll see our first blog post.
2009.
It was our first blog post was we got bees today. So keen people can follow everything we did wrong.
So April 26, 2008, I have clearing site for the hive. That was my first activity.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
What's my first one? Oh, October 2009. So it's not that long ago.
So what year was it, Kevin? 2000?
2008 for us, so 1 year before you.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, here we go. The first post was October the 18th.
2009.
And that was the first nuke we bought. So
it seems so funny to think that that's not that long ago, but people look at us like we're seasoned veterans.
I know.
Right?
Yeah.
It's scary, especially when I interview people that have been doing it for 40 years and stuff.
Yeah.
But I mean, I don't know. I suppose I think the way I look at it, Kevin, is we know more than someone that hasn't started yet.
Well, I think not that this is an excuse, but immersion in the way that we've been doing it. Somebody asks you a question, you have no choice but to do the research for it, and over time, practical experience comes. I mean, so one of my videos that I shot recently, I was out working on the hives, and I took an empty frame that I'm going to use in the top bar hive that I built, and I put it between 2 drawn-out frames. How would you think the bees would respond? You would think they would build comb on that empty starter, right? But they didn't. They went to this old funky comb and they built it out so that they touched. Well, I took that little thing out between the 2 of them, and I said, and I pushed the 2 frames together, and they aren't maintaining bee space. They don't touch on the shoulders. And I took my hive tool and I went down between and I cut it off. Well, all the honey ran out of the bottom board, down the front of the hive, robbing induced.
Robbing, yeah.
For how many years? What an idiot. Stupid. What a dumb mistake, right? But I shot the video and I left it in there because I want people to see. Even people who know what they're doing, to some extent, still make mistakes and still learn about that. So how do you fix that, right? When they built the comb out past the face and you want them to take it back, what do you do with it?
You have to cut it out, don't you?
Yeah.
To the point where it's crazy. Yeah.
The other thing that I think you could close it together to where it's touching, and I would assume that they'll go through and clean it out in between because they want to be able to pass between the frames and use it.
Yeah.
But how long will that take?
Yeah. A long time.
Yeah,
So
it'd take a
thankfully,
while.
it's a bottom board, right? So it didn't. If it was a mesh board, it'd run all the way out through the bottom of the hive. What a mess that would have been.
Yeah.
But it
Yeah.
still made a mess. There was honey all over the place.
Yeah, it is interesting because I think you're right. You have to be honest about what you're doing and where you've made mistakes. And yeah, you're right. So that the people that you're communicating with can learn what not to do. And I think that is helpful to them and how to apply a solution. And that's important. But what I'd hope that when we teach people, that we try to put them on a path that will give them a good start and have the right gear, and then they can apply some of that learning. And sometimes I think it is about just having all the right gears, and then when they start doing the beekeeping, one of the things that we teach is, and it's Gary's catchphrase, is to learn what's normal. And then when you have situations like the comb is going wider than the frame, then you can learn, well, okay, did I not have the right amount of frames in there, or what was I trying to achieve through that? Did I want the capping to go out wider so that I could extract easier, or whatever?
Yeah.
So it's interesting,
Oh, you learn these little things, eh?
Yeah.
Well, one of the
absolutely.
things I said to Bob, because that's what do? You go talk to your friends and say, what would you do? This is a top bar hive. It has no sides, and he builds foundationless frames all the time. And my question to him was, how do you do it, right? And I think the hypothesis that we came up with is the fact that he has sidebars and a bottom bar entice them to build down the sides, and maybe that's the way you do it. I'm curious. I have a couple of those that were successful. They built comb on those frames, and I'm going to pull them out and seed my top bar hive with them. And what I need them to do is build brood comb on there so that I can pull some brood out and get this top bar started. So that's the thing I'm trying to figure out is, how do I start my top bar? You can't just dump bees in the box with no comb, I don't think. What would entice them to even stay in there?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, so you're trying to get brood from a Langstrip into a top bar?
Can you split the existing frame? Like put some sort of V in the middle of a Langstrip frame, and then...
Yeah, make a frame.
Yeah.
Or even get a top bar.
An insert sort of frame.
Get a top bar and then put get a bit of wood and make a half circle that would fit into a top bar.
I'm sure what we do is just take a regular Langstroth frame and take it out, cut the sides off, cut the bottom off, trim all the way around the edge, and then cut the V shape and have comb with it, right? And do it. But what I tried to do is put the bar in a Langstroth hive and let them build it down. And I have some actually that they've built, and it will work, I think. I'm just trying to get more of them, and in this case, they built this way instead of building that frame in the middle, which I wanted them to. They didn't read the book.
I just checked the swap.
No, they never read the same books we read.
I just checked into the top bar hive. It was a swarm we caught. We just chucked it in there, eh? And
that is the quickest way to populate a top bar.
And I did one frame in the top bar. I actually made it have a frame, two sides, and a piece at the bottom. And they started building around that. And then I shifted the bars across, and they've started actually drawing from the bars now. So we've got a few that are just solely that. They haven't attached it to it's got a viewing window. But the first ones were attached to the viewing window, and now they've stopped doing that, and now they're just drawing the whole frame and it's nicely rounded without being attached to that window. And so, yeah, they're learning. They're very clever.
Yeah.
You guys asked a great question of Michael Bush. Did you asked him if he pre-waxed the frames, and he said no. And what he said was that he thought the bees attached the wax better in the wood than if you did it yourself, which was a great thank you for that tip, because that's really going to help me. Because I was contemplating whether I should wax my starter strips that are on there.
Yeah, he's got some good ideas, eh? And he uses a 45-degree angle under the top bar to make them start it. So I'm going to give that a go next season.
Our top bar has that.
I mean, not. So this isn't his Langstroths.
Oh, I see. Okay.
So he gets his top bar and he puts a 45-degree like triangle underneath the top bar. So it gives them a guide to start on.
Okay.
So, and some people have put the whole box like that, and I'm intrigued to see if that'll work. I'm going to try that because I think that'd go sideways.
The one that I built. I don't know if you saw or heard me talk about it in the past, right? It's a top bar hive, but the top dimension, it uses regular Langstroth frames as the top, and I could literally put Langstroth boxes up on top of it, right? And so, so I have to shoot some video because I had people asking me what happened to that thing, and my goal is to get it up and running.
That sounds good. Yeah.
So are the frames still square, or do they have the V shape?
They're just a bar. There's no sides to them.
But when they draw the comb, do they draw it straight down, or do there no frames? Sorry, I'm just trying to imagine it.
Oh, this is the top bar. Yeah.
They'll just draw it straight down. So you start with a block of wood with a V shape on the bottom, and they just draw the comb down from it. In a Langstroth hive, they'll draw it down in a big shape, and then if I take that frame out of my Langstroth to try and put it in, the wax hits the V shape of the sides. So I have to take a hot knife and cut them. And I have a pattern, right? So I'll cut that to a V shape, and then I'll just drop it in. And then I'll just keep putting additional frames next to it, and hopefully with that one being straight up and down and in a V shape, they'll build the next one and just keep building them next to it. As long as the hive is level, my hope is that they'll build it out. And I have the follower board, so I can make it a 4-frame nuke, essentially, and just keep moving the following board over as they make them. And hopefully, between the drawn comb that I give them that's or vertical, and the follower board that keeps them from going in the part of the hive that's not occupied, I can get them to build comb. I don't know. This is all new. We'll have to have Phil on here, and he could give me a lesson.
He's got some great things on YouTube that are really helpful. And the top bar hive that's now drawing the bars down now individually is a method that I picked up. So it is a process, and we always want to experiment, don't we?
Well, that's the thing. I don't want to read a book. I don't want somebody to tell me. I don't want to go watch videos. I think I know how this is going to work, and I'm going to try it. And if it works, or they build wonky comb, I'll start over. Right? I wanted to learn on my own without anybody guiding me.
Gary tells me off the time.
Oh, yeah, for your experiments.
Yeah, all my experiments. So.
Scientific research.
I know just enough to be dangerous in this. But that's the point. Like, I have the polystyrene hive. I know people keep these, and I know I can probably ask a lot of questions. I'm not. I'm putting frames in it, and I'm going to put it out there, and I'm going to learn. And I have a hive that has nothing but mediums right now. No deeps. You guys use different terminology, but the middle-sized boxes, and that's all that's on the stack, right? That's a common thing that happens here for weight. One of the boxes I just painted today to deploy is an 8-frame, not 10.
Okay.
It has two mediums. right? So I'm going to put that out and see what that's like. I think I'm really going to like that. When I was looking at it in the garage, I'm telling you, I really like that form factor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's very
because
attractive.
Michael, because yeah, I know, because you know, we talked to Linda Tillman and Michael Bush, and they all only use medium boxes or three quarter. We call them 3/4.
Yeah.
But yeah, it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, we're looking at doing, we've got some beginner kits that are already on order. So what we're doing is that some of them want to have the smaller boxes. So we're going to work on that this season, and we'll probably do that with ours.
Yeah, we'll create some 3/4 boxes.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and start building from there, and it just be more manageable for me too.
And especially some of our customers are quite like small ladies, and they can't lift full-size boxes.
Yeah.
No, it's impossible. I don't know how commercial guys.
Sweet small ladies with positive, friendly children.
Yeah, that's yeah. Well,
Some of those small ladies.
Nice.
small
One.
ladies with yeah.
Some of those small ladies have no children.
Yes.
The only thing that I didn't get in my yard that I wanted was a weve hive, right? That's my next foray.
Oh yeah. And they're perfectly square, aren't they, weve hives? I learnt that.
There's a guy here. His name is Chris Cole. He's Sweet Valley Hives, and he makes them. He did a preview for us, and you know what? His hives are beautiful. I might just go buy one of those instead of, I guess it depends, right? It's one of those time things. I'll tell you what I did this time, though. I bought all these frames that I bought. I bought 100, you called them 3/4 frames. I bought them all manufactured, and I bought 50 full-size frames, all manufactured, and I'm putting foundation in them, and some of them I'm going to do foundationless. And I looked at, for 20 cents, they built a frame for me. For 20 cents, I can't envision the amount of time I would have spent in my garage building 150 frames. Right?
Oh, that's cheap.
At 20 cents a piece, or something like that. So, never again. And I have a frame jig, and I have a nail gun, but still, for that.
Yeah.
That is cheap.
Yeah.
Yeah, we couldn't make them for that much. It's
No.
impossible because there's a lot of labour goes into making a frame.
Yeah.
No, wait.
Especially when you walk.
That nobody's confused. It's 20 cents more per frame buying assembled versus unassembled, or something like that. It's not 20
Nothing,
cents.
That's so easy.
Is that with wire and everything, or just a assembled
No.
frame?
No, it's just a frame with no
Oh,
foundation.
Okay. And then then you will take it and wire it or whatever.
Cut the wedge off, and you got to put the foundation in, and you got to nail the wedge back on, and you got to put the pins in to hold the foundation. Do you guys use pins to keep this stuff from flopping around, or wire?
We use wire and embed it with a battery charger.
Mm.
So we make the wire hot, and then the wax goes on. We put the wax on it.
Mm.
That's how we do it.
Do you guys, is your foundation pre-wired?
Our foundation has vertical wires throughout, but it's not horizontally wired, right? And the holes are in the sides where you could run the wires. And listen, I don't know. I've seen like the Fat B-Man videos where he does those wires, and he's using fishing line and all that. I'm at a loss as to why I need all that, because I put foundation in, and there's 4 holes in the thing. In the second hole, I use something the equivalent of like a bobby pin. I don't have any hair, so.
Yeah.
But as long as you put that pin in, it holds the foundation from being able to curl out so that it pops out of that bottom. It stays in. And you put it in the hive, and the bees build down the side, and that's it. I don't know why. I mean, everybody says, well, you're going to put it in an extractor. What kind of extractor do you have that you're cranking it, to the point where you're blowing your comb out? I don't have any such thing. I must be missing something.
Yeah.
In New Zealand, we have manuka honey, which is very thick,
It's like tar.
and when we over centrifugal the extraction of the frames, some of them can get quite wrecked. And
So
when
you
it's
gotta
really,
whirl then. Okay, that makes sense.
yeah, it has to give it a bit of strength. And the other thing is too is that it gets very hot, and sometimes if the wax isn't properly attached, the wax can fall.
Yeah.
And we've had that this season more than a lot of seasons, because we've had such high temperatures, but the wax is actually starting to slump inside the, inside the hive, and yeah, it's a bit
Really?
messy once it's,
I've
yeah.
never heard of that. Don't they
Oh,
maintain
you get pretty.
temperature inside?
Sorry?
They don't maintain the temperature inside to keep the wax okay? Inside the hive you're talking about, or inside your extractor?
Inside the hive, the frames, the wax foundation gets very hot. We've got most of our, we've got all of our hives that are on the mesh boards, but the ones that don't have the mesh board get really hot inside, where you can lose brood as well as the foundation does start to slump. So you have to make sure it's in properly. Yeah.
Yeah, you get hot days here
Yeah.
in summer, so.
And when you're doing an inspection,
Never heard of that.
you can
Never.
see the foundation starting to really tilt.
Oh, I mean, another thing is that the tin roofs,
Yeah.
they're really bad because they get sun all day, and you can take the hive mat off. Oh, I think you call it the inner cover. And sometimes they put wax on there. You can get your finger and just like wipe it off, and it's just
Really?
like liquid. Yeah, it gets that hot.
It is very hot.
What's
With those
used for
tin-
roof, and you don't use tin?
Yeah, it's like it's sheet metal,
Yeah.
sheet
But are
metal
you-
roof.
Or have you switched to something else?
No, still using them.
Mm.
Yeah, we should really paint them white or something.
We
or
should.
put a wooden cover on top.
It's all
You need
about
to
time.
Switch to those polystyrene hives, right? Which will
Oh,
No.
I can't be doing that.
no, huh?
I'm waiting. I'm waiting to see how your season goes, Kevin.
Yeah.
See, you're our experiment. See.
Okay,
We've seen
I'll
Yeah.
let you.
we have seen bees chew the polystyrene. When we first started, we sort of put them as inside the roof lining, like they have the lid. Then we put a polystyrene sheet in, and then we had the hive mat,
Yeah.
and the hive mat had a hole in it, and the bees were going up and chewing the polystyrene, trying to propolize it, and I don't know what they were doing with it. Maybe they were dismantling it and taking it out of the hive, but they didn't like that at all, eh?
No, I didn't like it. But I think those ones that you've bought are quite
That,
solid, eh?
You're supposed to vent them really well, and if they're in direct heat and it gets really hot, you're supposed to move them to the shade. So they're probably not a good answer.
No.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I think they're from Finland, aren't they?
Yes.
Whereas I can understand why you need them there because it's
The
freezing.
temperature. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's all because we've all got our own little microclimates on where our apiaries are. Then you've got the local climate for your area, and then you've got the bigger picture of climate for your location, if you know what I mean. And it's we found that where we are is that we could recommend something for our apiary because of how we've got our hives positioned, and then we have a neighbour and that doesn't work for them because they have a different aspect and position. So
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean,
it will be interesting to see how they go with that polystyrene.
yeah,
hive.
so we expect regular polystyrene
Yes,
updates
absolutely.
on your podcast, Kevin. Want a special section called the Poly Update.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They just are building out the first box, and I suspect I might go out and put the second box on this weekend. We'll see. We'll see how well they're doing.
Are you using wooden frames or plastic frames, dare I ask?
Frames. I have no use for plastic.
No, I can't stand plastic frames.
No.
They're okay, but that's about it.
My
You know.
my thought is this: I bought foundation. There are people who don't particularly like foundation, and I don't. You know, I always thought you hear these things about there's fluvalinate and coumaphos in the wax, and I am positive now that there's amitraz in the wax in the United States because the amount of amitraz that was used in the commercial space. And I really want to go to either foundationless, and when I go to foundationless, I want to get to small cell, right? I've heard what Michael Bush said, and I believe it.
Yeah.
But for right now, I'm just going to use foundation, get things started, and then over time, I will take all the foundation out and have them build foundationless.
Well, that's probably, I think there's some real merit to that because a lot of the companies that produce the wax foundation only get it from commercial suppliers. I don't know of any hobbyists that supply their organic wax pieces to these suppliers who produce the wax foundations. So I think there is some merit in that because
because wax
that's where you're
actually,
getting the wax from, these suppliers who produce the foundation.
and also wax acts like a sponge for amitraz.
Mm-hmm.
If you read our article on our blog about Epistan and why we don't use it, that's a big article about that. Yeah, it does. It's actually an absorbent for it, so absolutely you'll get it. Because they were doing a study in some university. They were trying to do an organic bee study, and they were trying to use commercial comb, and it's full of it.
Yeah.
So they had to go foundationless and just to do the study. Because they were trying to prove it.
Your bees build it themselves. They don't have any pesticides. So that's really where you need to go in order to get healthy.
We hope that is the case, eh? And
exactly.
Yeah, no, I think that there's some real logic in that that is a real concern.
Well, the biggest source of pests, I think it was Michael Bush that said this, but don't quote me. But he said the biggest source of pesticides in a hive are put there by the beekeepers.
Yeah,
They're not put there by the farm neck,
Yeah,
I'm going in a real strange direction, which is I'm going to build 10 hives. They're going to be commercial wax and all this other stuff. But my expectation is I just need to get enough hives up and running so that I can come out of winter with the population of bees that I could then start working towards foundationless and no treatment and all that other stuff. But if you have no bees, you can't do these things. You know, I don't know.
Yeah, you can't do your scientific experiments, Kevin, without bees.
You can't.
It's true. And you can't breed from dead bees either. So.
That's it. Yeah, I know. It's very true.
So would you look at perhaps having, trying, because what we've tried in the past is we've done a foundation frame and then we put a blank frame next to it, or empty, and then a full, full foundation one, and then get them to raise their wax comb on those middle ones and then take those middle ones out and start creating something from that.
Yeah,
that's
works.
What I'm going to do is that I said I bought 50. I have boxes and boxes. I'm going to do every other frame foundation. And I'm going to let them build foundation and foundationless, foundation and foundationless. And then eventually, when I have foundationless ones, then I will load boxes with foundationless and foundationless empty, foundationless built, foundationless, and I'll start culling the stuff that has foundation on it out. I'll cut it out and I'll melt it and I'll do something else with it, right?
Yeah.
But right now, I'm at a poverty of comb, right? You can't be building hives without comb.
Yeah.
I've always maintained 3, 4, 5 hives. I'm going to 10. I don't have comb for all this stuff, and you can't put empty frames in a box and expect the bees to build. And over winter.
I'll tell you what I did last year to save on comb is just you just get a strip about an inch and
Yeah.
you put that on every frame. That works really well.
Any depth of a small foundation strip will get them started.
Yeah. And
But a sugar, I mean, I don't agree with feeding the bees sugar syrups only if it's really necessary. But sometimes they use that method to encourage them to create wax.
Yeah.
Oh,
You
feed them.
Queen builds new bees, and you need new bees in order to be able to create wax, right?
And you can put thyme in that treatment, in the sugar syrup feed, and if the thyme is in, they start building up that wax, then you'll have thyme in there, and Varroa hate thyme.
Yeah, because there's a recent study that some person's doing, and they're actually studying using thyme and sugar syrup, and apparently when the Varroa mites eat that bee blood, or the bee, what do they call it? It's like the bee blood sort of stuff. It actually kills the mites. Yeah, kills the mites.
So that's another thing.
I've heard that people have hypothesized on that, Gary, but it's not true. So I want to believe that. You could feed them something and they'll exude something. Like you eat garlic, you know?
Oh, yeah.
I've never been.
Human
I eat a lot of garlic, Kevin, and I've never been bitten by a vampire. So you know.
Maybe there's something to it.
Yeah.
Yeah, but Margaret bitten you.
Yeah, but Margaret's not a vampire, so that's okay. But well, yeah, I'm interested to follow this lady's study and see what she comes up with in the end, because that's what she's studying. So
I think that thyme is.
What was her name?
Because they've used it on the organic treatments in a concentrate form, so I can see some merit. We did when we first got our had to rebuild our apiary up. We did sugar feeds and we put vitamin C and we put a lot of thyme in the sugar syrup, and those bees did really well.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it wasn't yeah.
Studies out that though that said that for whatever reason the brood did not exude thyme in a way that the mites were not deterred from them, right? But you would hope. I don't know why, Margaret, why they don't do more work in that space, because you listen to some folks, John Seaborn is another guy that talks about wintergreen, tea tree oil, some of those things that people can use that hopefully will get inside the bee and will be part of the bee's makeup and make them not attractive to the mite to bite, right?
Yeah. It
absolutely.
is interesting, and I think that there is some merit to thyme in terms of that, but you know, they also say put thyme and companion herbs or herbs around your hives, and that can also help, but I haven't seen any studies that would substantiate that.
Well, I've put the link to the study there, Kevin, so if you want to have a look at it, it's quite interesting.
You'll take
a lady called Ashley Robinson, she's just doing a study, so.
Yeah, so it's so exciting.
It's fresh off the press, that one.
Yeah, so. It's just recent that you found that one.
Well, we'll have to see if she can get her on the show and talk about her studies.
Yeah, so we're willing to try.
To feed the bees this stuff, like Honeybee Healthy or something like that, and it was going to prevent Varroa, somebody would have commercialized it, right? But I like the idea that you said you could plant it around your apiary, and as you're walking around, you're crushing it and releasing the oils in the soil and in the air. Maybe the volatiles will.
You know, the other thing it could just be one of many things that helps the bees. You know what I mean? It might slightly help the bees, and you're doing this and helping the bees, and I think it's a combination of multiple things.
I mean, that they talk about an integrated pest management program. We've talked about that with our students, that having something, you know, various approaches to help you manage your bees is the best way to do it, because there isn't one approach that's going to be 100% anyway.
Yep, every little thing in combination, right? Yeah,
Yeah.
that makes sense.
I think the days of using one super drug, or as Randy Oliver calls it, the silver bullet, are long gone. You know?
I guess in any if you have like a cow, for instance, you've got a herd of cows, you're not only going to do one approach, because you're going to have several issues and you have to deal with them separately. Like foot rot, there are several methods that you can use to manage foot rot. So I think we need to be aware that there are options available that all those things help with managing Varroa and other threats.
How did you guys make out this year with your vaporizer that you were using? How is that?
It works really well.
Yeah. It's so easy. Yeah, we put it on the inspection board. We cover up the entrance and we put it on the inspection board with a bit of wood underneath. And because we're not opening the hive, it's easy to treat any time of the year, and you don't need to have, because you're creating the heat source, so you don't have to wait for the weather to be nice or whatever.
Yeah, because I use them in Germany in the middle of when it's snowing.
Yeah.
Can you do that? I'm sorry.
You could, because the thing about it, I think it kills like 98% of mites on the bees. So if you've got a broodless period, you can basically kill all the mites in the hive. But unfortunately, we never have a broodless period in New Zealand. We always have brood.
Yeah.
It never gets that cold that the queen stops laying completely.
Yeah. Constant monitoring is required here in New Zealand. And, you know, like you were saying about the commercials, I don't know how they manage it. They just say that on this date they're going to do treatments regardless of anything. That's just what they'll do, and they'll do it twice a year.
Yeah. Yeah, is silic acid used in America? Is it? I think it's not. Is it legal?
No, not in New Jersey. It isn't.
Oh, okay.
Wow.
I thought everything was legal in New Jersey unless you got caught.
Yeah.
Sorry, that was a Bruce Springsteen song. Yeah.
Yeah, I know. That goes with what exit do you live off of, right?
Yeah, I know they use it in Canada, but I mean, obviously it's a totally different country. So
blame Canada.
Yeah.
Well, they made Amatraz, the commercial version of Amatraz, available in New Jersey not too long ago, and they're saying they're getting good results with it. So
for a short period.
It's because Epistan's got Amatraz in it, isn't it? From memory.
I thought it was Apivar. You know what? You're going to hear me say this. I've used Apigard, and that's it. I don't generally treat. I always did powdered sugar, right, for a long period of time, and I had Apigard, and I do splits, but I don't tend to put chemicals in. And I had Apigard, and I used it where it ran its course, and you know, my control has been by splitting the hive and breaking the brood cycle versus putting chemicals in. I haven't done any of that.
Yeah.
I've never used light-away quick strips. I've never used this stuff.
Yeah, it's not available here yet so never tried it either.
It's been approved for use here, and they're just waiting for the importers the exporters from Canada to bring it in.
Yeah.
So they'll start using that. But we're quite happy with our ones, and I think people get confused with the different treatments because they all start with Appy something, and I think a lot of hobbyists buy stuff that says Appy Life or Appy Var or Appy Guard or Thymavar, some of those ones. They name them so close, and it's unless you're really aware, you can be putting resistant creating chemicals in your hive.
Yeah, absolutely. The best thing to do, Kevin, is just to buy all your stuff from kiwimana Beekeeping Supplies.
That's right. Yes.
Have it shipped over. Yeah, it's Apivar is Amatraz in the United States. That's the brand name for it. And it says no accumulation of Amatraz residues can be noticed in wax.
Yeah.
On the home
page. Is that what it says?
That is absolute crap.
Yeah. Well, someone the other day was saying that.
I just wanted to be honest opinion. Sorry.
Yeah, it's your opinion.
Yes, my personal opinion.
But someone the other day said that we put right. They said it disappears in 20 minutes. I go, I don't think so.
Oh. We get our local council telling us that chemicals they want to use to kill a tree only last for 48 hours in the waterways. What a load of shit.
Yeah.
You can't swear on it.
Sorry.
Oops.
It's a family show.
Blooper.
You have to put the little thing across her mouth.
I know. Shocking.
Yeah, well, we get quite angry about pesticides.
Yeah.
I think I've heard that on occasion.
Yeah, we have to try and curtail it a bit, don't we?
Yeah, I apologise to all those listening. Please accept my apologies.
Oh, well, we must go, Kevin, because we've got to go and do our bees. So
yeah,
I'm gonna
we've got to go
and go back and work in the garage on a bunch of equipment. So it's been a pleasure.
Yeah, it's been awesome.
Great. Yeah,
it's awesome. And if anyone's listening, well, next month we'll be more organised.
And we'll be looking forward to hearing your poly updates as you go along and your foundationless creations.
That's right. And so, yeah, Kevin has got a great podcast at the bkcorner.net, is it? Or is it .org?
.org or .com.
So check out his
podcast.
Yeah, it's an awesome podcast. Highly recommended. Oh,
and
thanks.
Of course, the #1 beekeeping podcast in New Zealand is Kiwimana Buzz. Welcome to.
That's it. Absolutely. Oh, cheers. What's the name? Everyone knows that.
That is
worldwide.
That's a favorite clip of all times. Your intro should start with that.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah.
I love your podcast has such nuanced flavor, right? The little you go to play Kiwimana News and you play the little sound bite.
Yeah.
I love that stuff. I love it. Your intro is really loud for some reason, though. A lot of times, I start it and it blasts me out of my truck, and then I have to turn it up after.
Yeah. That's
turn it down.
That's to wake you up, Kevin. You know, to get you listening really loudly.
My ears are bleeding.
Oh, really? I'll have to look at that.
You'll have to sort that out. We haven't had that feedback, so thanks for that.
And some people say you shouldn't put loud music at the end of your podcast because that wakes people up. You know.
It was nice
people
to
go to
something to.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Oh, well, thank you.
I listen to them in the car all the time. It's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, well, have a good day, and you're starting your evening. We're going on to do some work at the other apiaries, so.
Yeah, got to get them all packed up and ready to go, and we'll be releasing a new podcast this Thursday, episode 50.
Who's is it just the two of you, or you have somebody coming in as a guest?
Yeah.
Just me and Margaret. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we'll start the interviews up again.
There's tears and blood and all the excitement.
You didn't give away your trade secrets. How do you find all these folks? You just on the forums and start up a conversation, or? Yeah,
pretty much. Twitter, all sorts. Yeah, I mean, I kind of try and find people that I think would be interesting, and I think if I think they're interesting, other people might find the same. Yeah. Because
awesome,
did you listen to that Megan Pesca one? Because she's from New Jersey, eh?
I did listen. I've never heard of her, and I asked the state apiarist if he was familiar with her because she's doing training, and he had not heard of her either. So.
Well, They just moved to New Jersey, so maybe that's why.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh,
she's
well,
in, it looks like she's by Sandy Hook or something.
Yeah.
So,
Oh, well, and thanks for Javona. Thanks for listening. She just made some comment on the page here. So.
these treatments are thymal based.
Oh, you should say these treatments are thymal based, so that must be the ones we're talking about.
Okay.
Oh, well,
well,
cheers, Kev. Yeah.
Yeah. Have fun.
bye.
And we'll, yeah.
See ya.
How do we stop?